Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. If you're passionate about the stock market, AI, semiconductor companies, and discovering the latest investment opportunities, then you've come to the right place. On this channel, we break down the biggest market-moving developments, analyze company fundamentals, and explain what they could mean for investors. Before we dive into today's update, make sure you watch until the very end because today's analysis covers several critical developments that could shape Micron's next major move. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or investment advice. Always conduct your own research and consult a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Micron Technology is approaching a crucial turning point as investors closely monitor whether the company can maintain its recent momentum or face another wave of selling pressure. Although enthusiasm surrounding artificial intelligence continues to provide long-term support for semiconductor companies, several new developments are creating uncertainty for Micron's near-term outlook. At the center of the discussion is the stock's struggle to establish itself above the important $1,000 psychological resistance level. Despite strong optimism fueled by AI-related spending from the world's largest technology companies, analysts believe that multiple macroeconomic and geopolitical challenges could prevent Micron from sustaining a breakout above this major price level. Instead, the stock could remain highly volatile over the coming weeks, with the possibility of revisiting significantly lower support zones if investor sentiment weakens further. One of the primary reasons for this cautious outlook is that Micron's valuation has already benefited substantially from the explosive growth of artificial intelligence infrastructure. Massive capital expenditures from leading technology companies have created enormous demand for advanced memory products, allowing Micron to benefit from increased orders for high-performance DRAM and NAND solutions. However, while AI continues to serve as a powerful long-term growth engine, investors are beginning to question whether current expectations have become too optimistic. When stocks experience rapid appreciation over a relatively short period, they often become increasingly sensitive to negative macroeconomic developments. As a result, even a small shift in market sentiment could trigger meaningful profit-taking, particularly when the stock approaches a major psychological resistance level such as $1,000. Adding to these concerns is the upcoming Federal Reserve interest rate decision, which has become one of the most closely watched events for financial markets. Investors understand that monetary policy has a direct impact on technology stock valuations because higher interest rates increase discount rates used to value future earnings. This typically puts pressure on high-growth companies whose valuations depend heavily on future cash flow expectations. According to the latest CME probability data, markets currently assign approximately a 33.7% chance that the Federal Reserve could raise interest rates during its July meeting, while there remains a 66.3% probability that policymakers will leave rates unchanged. Although maintaining current rates may appear less aggressive than another hike, investors are equally concerned that the Federal Reserve could continue signaling a higher-for-longer interest rate environment. If interest rates remain elevated for an extended period, several consequences could directly affect Micron's business. Higher Treasury yields generally reduce investor appetite for growth-oriented technology stocks because safer fixed-income investments become more attractive. At the same time, elevated borrowing costs tend to slow consumer spending on discretionary products such as smartphones, personal computers, tablets, and other electronic devices. Since these consumer products represent important end markets for traditional DRAM and NAND memory chips, weaker replacement cycles could eventually reduce demand for Micron's memory products outside the rapidly growing AI sector. Although artificial intelligence remains a powerful source of demand, it may not fully offset weakness in broader consumer electronics markets if economic conditions continue to soften. Another important concern involves ongoing geopolitical developments and global supply chain adjustments. Reports indicating that Apple is exploring greater cooperation with Chinese manufacturers as part of its localization strategy have attracted significant attention across the semiconductor industry. While supply chain diversification has become increasingly common over the past several years, any meaningful shift in procurement strategies could potentially reduce purchasing volumes from existing suppliers. For Micron, such developments introduce another layer of uncertainty because changes in sourcing decisions by one of the world's largest technology companies could eventually influence memory procurement volumes. Although the long-term impact remains uncertain, investors are carefully monitoring these developments as they evaluate future revenue expectations. Beyond the fundamental concerns, Micron is also facing significant technical resistance from a market structure perspective. The $1,000 price level has become an important psychological barrier where many investors may choose to lock in profits following the stock's strong rally. Psychological resistance levels often attract increased selling activity because traders become cautious about paying increasingly higher prices without additional positive catalysts. As buying momentum begins to weaken near these major resistance zones, even relatively modest negative news can accelerate selling pressure and produce sharp short-term corrections. Technical analysts believe that if Micron fails to establish a convincing breakout above $1,000, the stock could experience a healthy but meaningful retracement toward lower support levels. The first major support area is located near $800, where previous buying interest has emerged during earlier consolidations. If broader market conditions deteriorate further or macroeconomic concerns intensify, selling pressure could potentially extend toward the $650 region. This level carries particular importance because it previously served as the lowest point during Micron's strong rally earlier in May and demonstrated substantial buying support. Markets often revisit former breakout areas to determine whether buyers remain committed before beginning another sustained upward trend. It is important to understand that such pullbacks would not necessarily invalidate Micron's long-term investment thesis. Instead, they could represent normal market behavior following an extended rally. Strong stocks frequently experience corrections that allow valuations to stabilize before continuing higher. However, the timing of any recovery will largely depend on improving macroeconomic conditions, supportive monetary policy, continued AI infrastructure investment, and stable global supply chains. Until investors receive greater clarity on these issues, volatility is likely to remain elevated. Artificial intelligence continues to represent Micron's strongest long-term catalyst. Demand for high-bandwidth memory, advanced DRAM technologies, and enterprise storage solutions remains exceptionally strong as hyperscale cloud providers continue expanding AI infrastructure. Companies investing billions of dollars into AI data centers require increasingly sophisticated memory solutions capable of supporting large language models and accelerated computing workloads. This structural demand provides an important foundation for Micron's long-term growth story. Nevertheless, investors recognize that even the strongest secular growth trends can experience temporary setbacks when macroeconomic conditions become less favorable. At the same time, market participants are balancing optimism surrounding AI with concerns about broader economic growth. If inflation remains stubbornly high and forces the Federal Reserve to maintain restrictive monetary policy longer than anticipated, capital markets could remain under pressure. This environment typically results in greater volatility across high-growth technology companies, especially those trading at elevated valuation multiples. Consequently, Micron may continue experiencing substantial price swings as investors react to every new economic report, inflation update, employment release, and Federal Reserve communication. Overall, Micron currently finds itself at a critical crossroads. On one hand, the company continues benefiting from one of the strongest technology investment cycles in recent history, driven by artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and data center expansion. On the other hand, rising macroeconomic uncertainty, potential interest rate pressures, evolving geopolitical dynamics, and changing global supply chains are creating meaningful headwinds that cannot be ignored. These opposing forces explain why many analysts believe the stock could struggle to maintain prices above the psychologically important $1,000 level in the near future. Unless investors receive stronger positive catalysts, Micron may continue trading within a volatile range while repeatedly testing key support and resistance levels. The $800 region represents the first important area where buyers could attempt to regain control, while a deeper correction toward approximately $650 cannot be ruled out if broader market conditions deteriorate. Ultimately, the next major move will likely depend on Federal Reserve policy decisions, economic data, AI spending trends, and the company's ability to maintain strong demand across both enterprise and consumer memory markets. That wraps up today's Micron Technology update. If you found this analysis helpful, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest updates on Micron, AI stocks, semiconductor companies, and the biggest opportunities in the market. Also, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Micron can eventually break above the $1,000 level, or do you expect another pullback before the next major rally? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.